I've animated 10 striking techniques that are missing from UFC 5, and in this video, I'm going to show you guys what they could potentially look like in UFC 6. Now, to be fair, UFC 5 has a massive library of strikes, from punches to kicks to unconventional weapons like the Stockton slap as well as the Rolling Thunder. But I'm greedy, okay? I want more. What can I say? Plus, some of these should have already been in the game if we're being honest. Like the very first strike that I animated, the switch kick to the head. It's basically a roundhouse kick to the head that is thrown after you switch your stance very briefly. The switch allows the fighter to load up the hip and get more rotation, which in turn leads to more power. We've seen fighters like Alex Pereira have a lot of success with this weapon, especially in his second fight against Yuri Prochazka, where he actually won the fight with this kick. So it should definitely be in the game, and I'm hoping we see it in UFC 6. The next one is a variation of the lead uppercut that we've mostly seen Conor McGregor use, especially in his fight against Max Holloway. He keeps his head off the center line and throws the lead uppercut with his thumb facing inwards, almost like he's about to throw a jab. A really good benefit of this weapon is that it can cover quite a bit of distance because of how far he leans forward as he throws it, and because he keeps his head at an angle and he's also a southpaw, it almost has inbuilt evasion, allowing him to land while dodging his opponent's jab. Now, I really like this strike, man, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we get to see it in UFC 6, especially because they actually had it in UFC Undisputed 3, of course. But if you guys know what this specific variation of the uppercut is called, leave that in the comment section below, because I really can't figure out exactly what it's called. The next technique I'm going to talk about is mean, bro. It is absolutely nasty, and of course, it's a Jon Jones weapon. Now, we already have two variations of this weapon in UFC 5. We have the oblique kick and the front leg side kick. But there's one more that Jon does that is far more deadly, and that's the side kick from the back leg. It covers a ton of distance, and because of the stance switch, you're able to torque the hip better and generate far more power as you stomp down on the knee. It is absolutely freaking brutal, and I don't think we've ever actually seen this strike in any UFC game, so it'll be nice to see it in UFC 6 so we can assign that to Jon Jones. The next strike I would like to see in UFC 6 is the 360 turn-in side kick to the body, which was popularized by Kung Lee in the UFC. He starts off in the southpaw position, then he steps forward with his back leg and turns into the kick with what used to be his lead leg. The step, followed by that turn, adds a lot of torque to the kick, making it extremely powerful. The most powerful kick you can actually throw to a person's body, and Kung Lee got a lot of stoppages with this technique. Next up is a variation of the knee to the head that we've seen from fighters like Alistair Overeem and more recently Alex Pereira, and we usually see this when they have their opponents kind of stuck against the cage, hurt, and they're about to finish them. Rather than jump up to land the knee to the head, the fighter briefly grabs his opponent's head to pull it down and then throw the knee at the head while still planted. It's really cool because it's quick enough that you can mix it into a combination without actually having to commit to a clinch, and it's powerful because, well, it's a knee to the freaking head. So I think it would be really cool addition, especially for those moments where you have somebody hurt and they're covering up. You can just grab the back of the head really quickly, pull the head down, and boom, land the knee. So fingers crossed. The next strike I want to see in UFC 6 is a Tony Ferguson special. Actually, the next three strikes I'm going to talk about are Tony Ferguson specials, and they fall under unconventional. The first one is the roundhouse leg sweep. You get really low to the ground, you plant your lead hand to the mat, and then sweep the opponent's leg with your back leg. When Tony used it against Justin Gaethje, he actually swept him off his feet. And when you can off-balance someone like that in a hand-to-hand combat scenario, it creates a lot of opportunities to follow up. And I figured if they're gonna add this Tony Ferguson leg sweep to the game, they might as well add the Mortal Kombat variation of it, where instead of swinging the leg like a roundhouse, you get low to the ground and swing your back leg like a wheel kick. And if you do this correctly, you can actually knock the opponent off their feet. Now, I know what you're thinking. Henry, why the hell would EA waste their time adding this Mortal Kombat technique to the game when no one has ever done this in the UFC? And to that, I'm gonna say, watch this.
Well, look at that, nicely
Yeah, someone did it against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, it is a legit technique. I think it would be really cool to add it to Tony Ferguson's arsenal. Yeah, you can call it a bullshit technique, but Tony does a lot of those bullshit techniques all the time in there. Speaking of bullshit techniques, the next one is a thigh punch. Yeah, a punch to the thigh. Look, I know this is goofy, but if you can have the Stockton slap in UFC 5, I don't see why we can't give Tony Ferguson his thigh punch. He does it all the time, and even though it's not gonna break your opponent's knee or knock him out, it could be a really good setup for something like an uppercut, a knee, an up kick, basically any strike that could take advantage of them pulling their leg back to avoid the punch. It also adds a lot of personality and uniqueness to the fighter, which is, if we're being honest, something that this franchise is desperately in need of. So yeah, let's get Tony's thigh punch in, okay? Number 9 is the forward step switch hook, which is a personal favorite of mine. And the reason for that is because of how many different kick setups you can actually do before you throw the strike. So let's say that you've been kicking your opponent to the body with roundhouse, you've been poking at them, you've been hitting them with teeps to the body, essentially techniques with the kick that points your knee towards your opponent. And so you condition them to block low, and every single time they see your knee pointed towards them, they block low. So you lift the knee, but instead of kicking, you step forward into Southpaw and land a right hook or an overhand right while their hand drops. Now there's a variation of this in UFC 5 that was assigned to TJ Dillashaw where he does like a quick switch and lunges into a right hook, but I would still like to see this specific forward step variation added just because, again, the kick setups are freaking fantastic and it will be a good addition for fighters that are known to seamlessly switch their stances while they're throwing. The last strike on this list is a strike that I think you guys are going to agree with me is very, very important to add. And frankly, it's been missing from these UFC games made by EA. And I'm talking, of course, about the intercept knee against takedowns. Pretty much the intercept knee against any strike that kind of forces your head to drop a little bit, like jabs to the body, straight to the body, and overhand. Basically, any strike that you have to lower your level to try to throw. It would look like this. The opponent goes to shoot a takedown, you throw a knee, which intercepts the takedown and either knocks them backwards or maybe even results in a knockout. One of the most popular examples of this was when Jose Aldo knocked out Chad Mendes as he tried to shoot in on him. And if I remember correctly, this was actually the inspiration for the intercept knee to be added to UFC Undisputed 3. Now, yes, we have knee strikes in UFC 5. I'm not saying we don't. We have knee strikes in UFC 5, but they were not designed specifically for them to intercept takedowns, which is why no player in UFC 5 actually tries to consistently use knees to deter the opponent from shooting takedowns. And this was a very common thing we did in UFC Undisputed 3. The knee was fast enough, it was explosive enough that when you actually see someone about to shoot, or when you know they're going to shoot because they've been shooting all day long, you can actually throw up the knee, and it was accurate enough and damaging enough that if you made contact with them, which we did all the time, you could actually knock them out. A knee should 100% be a consistent, reliable, viable threat against takedowns in UFC 6, and it should be fast and explosive enough that we can use it as a counter after we read that a takedown is coming, not just a, oh, I happen to throw a knee and you happen to shoot a takedown and the knee happened to land. That's not what I want, right? Right now, the knee in UFC 5, the telegraph to it is it's pretty big, right? You can't read the takedown coming, throw the knee, and actually expect to consistently interrupt the takedown with a knee. I would like to see that change. So please, please, EA, give us a proper intercepting knee against takedowns. Test it over and over again. Make sure players can use it on reaction. Again, not something we have to load up way ahead of time thinking the opponent will shoot. I should be able to see my opponent about to shoot, input a knee if I'm fast enough, right? I'm not saying the timing should be wide open that my grandma can do it. No, but like a decent player with decent timing should be able to do it, and that should be absolutely viable. But that does it. 10 strikes that I would like to see added to UFC 6, 10 strikes that are missing from UFC 5. I don't know if any of these will make it in. I genuinely don't know. Like, I know you guys think I know every single thing about UFC 6, but I really don't know, which is why I'm really hoping that we get a lot of these strikes. At the very least, the very last one. To me, that's the most important one, an intercepting knee. I would love to see that added to UFC 6. So if you guys agree with me or you disagree, let me know in the comment section. If there's some strikes you think that I forgot to include, or strikes that I included that you want to take out, leave all of that in the comment section below. I really appreciate all you guys' support, and I'll see you boys later with a brand new one. Peace out. Have a good one.